I was standing in my childhood bedroom, mascara running down my face, holding a black garbage bag with everything I owned, when my father's words hit me like ice water. "Your mother is barely cold, and you're still here. Get out of my house." What he didn't know, Mom had been planning her revenge for 3 years, and the letter the lawyer handed me exactly 1 week later would turn his entire world upside down. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. Introduction: my name is Celestini Morrison, and until November 3rd, 2023, I thought I understood my family. I was wrong about everything. I'm 32 years old, and I spent the last 3 years watching my mother, Evangeline Morrison, die slowly from stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Through every chemo session, every hospital stay, every moment she couldn't keep food down, I was there. I quit my marketing job in Chicago, left my apartment, my friends, my entire life, and moved back to our family estate in Greenwich, Connecticut to take care of her dog. My father, Richard Morrison III, is a hedge fund manager worth what I thought was around $30 million. Cold, calculating, and obsessed with his legacy. He couldn't be bothered to sit with Mom during her treatments because he had important meetings and investors to court. But I knew the real reason. Richard Morrison didn't do weakness, and cancer made my beautiful, elegant mother weak in his eyes. What I didn't know was that my father had been having an affair for the past 5 years with someone half his age. Someone I knew. Her name was Amber Castellano, and she was my former best friend from high school. The betrayal unfolds. Mom died on a Tuesday morning at 6:47 a.m. I was holding her hand. She squeezed my fingers 3 times. "Our secret, I love you." And then she was gone. The house was silent except for the sound of my sobbing and the mechanical beep of the heart monitor flattling into one long, devastating tone. I called my father. He was at the office. "She's gone. Dad, Mom's gone. I'll be home by 7 tonight. Make the arrangements with the funeral home." That was it. No tears, no emotion, just instructions. I spent that entire day in shock, making phone calls, coordinating with the funeral director, calling relatives. At around 3 p.m., I heard the front door open. I thought Dad had come home early. Instead, I walked downstairs to find Amber Castellano dragging designer luggage into our foyer. "Oh, Celestini," she said with fake sympathy dripping from her voice. "I'm so sorry about Evangeline. She was such a strong woman. What are you doing here?" I asked, my blood turning to ice. "Didn't Richard tell you? I'm moving in. We've been together for 5 years now. Sweetie, it's time to make it official." I actually laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. "My mother died this morning. This morning? And you're moving into her house?" Amber shrugged, examining her manicured nails. "Richard and I have been planning this for months. Your mother knew, by the way. He told her about us last year when she got her diagnosis. Probably contributed to her decline. Honestly, all that stress can't be good for." I slapped her hard, right across her smug face. She stumbled back, holding her cheek, eyes wide with shock and rage. "You psycho, Richard." My father appeared at the top of the stairs. He looked at me with disgust, not love, not even disappointment, just cold disgust. "Go to your room, Celestini. We'll talk later." "Talk? Dad, Mom died today. What is she doing here?" I said we'll talk later. "Go." I spent the next 4 hours locked in my childhood bedroom, crying until I couldn't breathe. Around 8 p.m., there was a knock on my door. My father entered without waiting for permission. "You need to leave," he said flatly. "Excuse me, this is my house. Amber and I are starting our life together. You're an adult. It's time you figured out your own life instead of hiding behind your mother's illness." Hiding? I gave up everything to take care of her. Where were you? Having dinner with your mistress while Mom was puking her guts out from chemo? His jaw tightened. "Watch your tone. I gave you a place to stay while you played nurse. That's over now. I want you out by morning. It's Mom's funeral in 3 days. You can come to the funeral, but you're not staying here. I've already had Amber's assistant book you a room at the Marriott in Stamford. Pack your things." That's when I realized He'd been planning this. He waited for my mother to die so he could erase her from his life completely, and I was part of that erasure. I packed suitcases and 3 garbage bags with shaking hands. Every photo of me and Mom, every piece of jewelry she'd given me, clothes, books, my laptop. At 11 p.m., I called an Uber and left the only home I'd ever known. My father watched from the doorway with Amber wrapped around his arm. Smiling, the funeral was held on Friday, November 6th, at the Riverside Cemetery in Old Greenwich. Over 200 people attended. My mother was beloved charity boards, hospital auxiliaries, the Opera Guild, her book club. Everyone loved Evangeline Morrison. Everyone except her husband. My father gave a eulogy that sounded like it had been written by checked, generic, emotionless, filled with phrases like devoted wife and pillar of the community. I could barely look at him. Amber had the audacity to attend, wearing a black dress that was entirely too short for a funeral. She sat in the 3rd row, dabbing at her dress with a tissue, playing the grieving family friend. After the service, during the reception at the Greenwich Country Club, my father pulled me aside. The will reading is scheduled for next Friday at 2 p.m. Martin Rothschild's office. Don't be late. Martin Rothschild had been my mother's attorney for 20 years. A sharp, distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. I'll be there, I said coldly. Good. After that, I don't expect we'll need to see much of each other. You'll receive whatever your mother left you, and we can both move on. I stared at him in disbelief. She was your wife for 34 years. She was sick for 3 years. The woman I married died long before her body did. Amber is my future now. I walked away before I said something I'd regret, or slapped him like I'd slapped his mistress. The will reading, Part 1, November 13th. 2023, I sat in Martin Rothschild's office in downtown Greenwich, wearing the same black dress I'd worn to the funeral because I couldn't afford to buy anything new. My emergency fund was nearly depleted, and I'd been applying for jobs from my hotel room with no luck. My father arrived 15 minutes late with Amber. Of course, Martin greeted us professionally, but warmly squeezed my hand. Celestini, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your mother was an exceptional woman. Thank you, I whispered. We sat down, me on one side of the conference table, Dad and Amber on the other. Martin opened a leather portfolio and pulled out 2 documents. Before we begin, Martin said, looking directly at my father, I need to inform you that Evangeline amended her will on August 14th, 2023. She came to my office specifically to make these changes, and I can confirm she was of completely sound mind and body at the time. I have the medical clearance documentation to support this. My father frowned. Amended. She didn't tell me she was making changes. She instructed me not to inform you until after her death. Now, let's begin. Martin adjusted his reading glasses and began. I, Evangeline Grace Morrison, being of sound mind and body, do hereby declare this to be my last will and testament. The first part was standard small bequests to charities. Her sister in Boston, her best friend Patricia. Then Martin's voice shifted, became stronger, to my daughter, Celestini Marie Morrison, who sacrificed her life, her career, and her happiness to care for me during my illness, who showed me more love in 3 years than my husband showed me in 34. I leave the following. I held my breath. All funds contained in my personal Chase private client account, currently valued at $843,000. My Vanguard investment portfolio, valued at approximately $2.1 million. My shares in Morrison Industries, which represent 25% ownership of my husband's company, valued at approximately $15 million. The beach house in East Hampton, currently valued at $4.2 million. My collection of jewelry, art, and personal effects, valued at approximately $1.8 million. And finally, Martin paused, looking at my father with something that looked like satisfaction. The family estate located at 37 Meadowbrook Lane, Greenwich, Connecticut, valued at $9 million. which was purchased in 1990 for under my name with my inheritance from my father's estate. Richard Morrison has been living in my home for 29 years. The room went silent. My father's face turned purple. That's impossible. The house is in both our names. We bought it together. No, Martin said calmly, pulling out another document. The deed shows Evangeline Grace Ashworth purchased the property in April 1994. 6 months before your marriage, you signed a prenuptial agreement that specifically stated the Greenwich estate would remain her separate property. I have that document here as well. My father's hands were shaking. She wouldn't. We had an agreement. The agreement was that upon her death, the estate would pass to her children. Singular child, Celestini. Amber's face had gone white, but we just moved in. We've been redecorating. I had my designer. You've been living in Celestine's house without permission. Martin interrupted, which brings me to the next part. He turned to me. Your mother has also left you a letter.
She requested you read it privately, but there's one passage she specifically wanted read aloud in front of your father. Martin pulled out an envelope and extracted a handwritten letter, my mother's elegant script. I started crying immediately. He cleared his throat and read, "Richard, by the time you hear these words, I'll be gone. You think you've been clever, sneaking around with that gold digger, throwing your daughter out of her own home the moment I took my last breath, but I've been watching you. For 3 years, while you thought I was too weak and too drugged to notice, I was planning. I know about the offshore accounts. I know about the money you've been hiding from the IRS. I know about the bribes to the SEC investigators. I know about the insider trading scheme with the Rosenberg deal. And I've documented everything. I have copies of emails, bank statements, wire transfers, phone records, and I've given all of it to Martin, with instructions to turn it over to the FBI and the IRS if you contest this will in any way, or if you make any attempt to harm or intimidate our daughter. You stole 5 years of our marriage. You stole my dignity by flaunting your whore in front of our friends. You threw our daughter away like garbage. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to accept this will without contest. You're going to apologize to Celestine. You're going to move out of her house within 30 days. And you're going to pray that she's more merciful than you ever were. If you fight this, I'll destroy you from beyond the grave. Try me, Richard. You know I never bluff. Your wife of 34 years, Evangeline." The aftermath. The silence in that room was deafening. My father's face cycled through every color, red, purple, white, and back to red again. Amber looked like she was going to vomit. "This is blackmail," my father finally exploded. "You can't—" "It's not blackmail if the person making the threat is dead," said Martin smoothly. "And everything in this letter is documented fact. I have the evidence in my safe. Evangeline spent 2 years working with a private investigator and a forensic accountant. She was very thorough." "I'll fight this," Dad said, standing up. "I'll tie this up in court for years. Then I'll make one phone call to my contact at the Southern District of New York. How long do you think your hedge fund will last once your investors find out you've been under federal investigation?" Amber grabbed my father's arm. "Richard, let's just go. We can figure this out." "Figure what out?" he snarled at her. "You thought you were moving into a $9 million estate. Now we have nothing." "You have your own money," she said weakly. "My money? You mean the money I'll need for lawyers when the FBI comes knocking?" I watched their relationship implode in real time. It was better than therapy. Martin turned to me, his expression softening. "Celestine, the accounts will be transferred to your name within the week. The house deed transfer will take about 30 days. In the meantime, I have keys to the East Hampton property, if you'd like to stay there while you figure things out." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. "And this," Martin said, handing me the rest of my mother's letter. "This part is just for you. Mom's letter to me. I read the rest of Mom's letter that night, sitting on the deck of the East Hampton beach house, watching the waves crash against the shore. My darling Celestine, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm so sorry I had to leave you. These last 3 years have been the hardest of my life, but they've also been the most precious because I got to spend them with you. I know what your father did. I knew he would throw you out the moment I died. That's who he is. Cold, calculating, concerned only with his own comfort. I'm sorry I didn't leave him years ago. I was afraid. Isn't that pathetic? A grown woman afraid of a bully in an expensive suit? But watching you sacrifice everything for me, your job, your apartment, your relationship with David, your entire life, it reminded me what real love looks like, and it made me realize I had to protect you. So I started planning. I hired investigators. I moved money. I made calls to old friends in law enforcement. And I built you a fortress, sweetheart. A fortress made of cold, hard evidence and the fortune I inherited from my father. Your grandfather would be so proud of you. You have his strength, his compassion, his fierce love for family. That's why I'm leaving you everything. Not because your father doesn't deserve it, although he doesn't, but because you deserve it. You deserve security. You deserve peace. You deserve to build whatever life you want without fear. Here's what I need you to do. Live. Really live. Not the half-life you were living before, working 80 hours a week to please bosses who didn't value you. Not the careful, anxious life of someone afraid to take up space. Travel. Take that trip to Italy you always talked about. Buy art that makes you happy. Eat expensive dinners. Fall in love with someone who deserves you. Not David. You can do so much better. Start that nonprofit you dreamed about. Write that novel. Do something ridiculous and impulsive. And Celestine, forgive your father. Not for his sake. He doesn't deserve forgiveness. But for yours. Carrying that anger will poison you from the inside. I know. I carried it for years, and it made me sick long before the cancer did. You don't have to have a relationship with him. You don't have to invite him to your future wedding or let him meet your future children. You don't owe him anything. But release the anger. Let it go like a balloon floating away. Watch it disappear and then turn toward your beautiful future. I love you more than words can express. I'm so proud of the woman you've become, and I'll be watching over you, always. 3 squeezes, my darling girl. Mom. I sobbed for an hour. Then I called my best friend from college, Rachel, who lived in Brooklyn. Ratch, it's Sally. You're not going to believe what just happened. Moving forward. The next 30 days were whirlwind. My father and Amber moved out of the Greenwich estate in record time. Amber left him 2 weeks after the will reading, by the way. Apparently, a future federal defendant without a $9 million house wasn't as attractive as she'd thought. Last I heard, she was dating a real estate developer in Miami. Good luck to him. I hired an interior designer to clean out all traces of my father from the house and restore it to how my mother had it decorated. Every piece of his masculine leather furniture went to auction. Every golf trophy, every mahogany bookshelf full of books he'd never read. Gone. In their place, light, airy fabrics, fresh flowers. My mother's art collection brought out of storage. Her books on the shelves. Photos of us together everywhere. I also hired a lawyer to review all of my mother's evidence. Turns out, she'd been incredibly thorough. My father had been dodging taxes for years, hiding money in offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, and engaging in securities fraud that would make Jordan Belford blush. I had a choice, turn him in or let him live in fear. I chose option 3. I had Martin call my father's lawyer and offer a deal. He leaves me alone forever. No contact, no showing up at family events, nothing. And I keep the evidence locked away. If he ever tries to interfere in my life, challenge the will, or harass me in any way, everything goes to the FBI. He agreed immediately. I haven't heard from him since. The new life. I spent Christmas 2023 in Italy. Rome, Florence, Venice. I ate pasta and drank wine and cried at the Sistine Chapel because my mother always wanted to see it and never got the chance. In January 2024, I donated $1 million to the Connecticut Cancer Foundation in my mother's name. They named a treatment wing after her, the Evangeline Morrison Center for Compassionate Care. In February, I started writing. Just for me at first, but then I realized I had a story people needed to hear. About caregiving, about betrayal, about mothers who protect their daughters even from beyond the grave. I'm working with a literary agent now. The book will be published next spring. In March, I met someone. His name is James. He's a pediatric oncologist at Yale New Haven Hospital, and he understands grief in a way most people don't. He's kind. He's patient. He makes me laugh. We're taking things slow, but for the first time in years, I'm excited about the future. I also started a nonprofit called Invisible Caregivers. We provide financial support, respite care, and mental health services for people who've given up their careers to care for dying family members. Because I know what that sacrifice costs, and I know how invisible those people become. The Greenwich estate is full of life now. I host fundraisers, book club meetings, dinners for friends. My mother's friends come by and tell me stories about her that make me laugh and cry. The house has gone from a mausoleum to a home. And every morning I walk through the gardens my mother planted and I talk to her. I tell her about my day, my plans, my fears, my joys. And I swear I can feel her there, proud of who I'm becoming. The final twist. About 6 months after the will reading, I got a call from Martin. Celestine, you need to come to my office. There's something your mother left that was instructed I give to you now, not at the original reading. Intrigued, I drove into Greenwich. Martin handed me a small box and another letter. The box contained a key and a photograph of my mother as a young woman standing in front of a small bookshop in Paris. The letter explained, "Dearest Celestine, if Martin is giving you this, it means you've taken your first steps into your new life. I'm so glad. The key is to a small apartment in the 6th arrondissement of Paris. It belonged to my Aunt Colette, who left it to me when she died in 2010. Your father never knew about it. It was my secret, my escape plan that I never had the courage to use. The apartment is yours now. It's small but charming with a view of the Luxembourg Gardens. I've arranged for it to be maintained and kept ready for you. I used to dream of running away to Paris, opening a little bookshop, living a completely different life. I never did it. I let fear stop me. Don't let fear stop you, my darling. You have the resources now, and more importantly, you have the strength. If you want to spend a summer in Paris, do it. If you want to live there for a year, do it. If you want to sell it and use the money for something else, do that. The point is, you have choices. You have freedom. You have the life I always wanted for you. Use it well. All my love, Mom." P.S. The bookshop next door to the apartment is for sale. Just saying. I'm writing from that apartment in Paris. It's August 2024, and I've been there for 3 months. I did buy the bookshop. It opens next week. Evangeline's English books will specialize in contemporary fiction, memoir, and books about strong women who refused to be broken. James is visiting next month. We're going to spend 2 weeks exploring the city together. I think my mother would approve. Epilogue. The Thing About Revenge. People always say revenge is a dish best served cold, but that's not quite right. Revenge isn't about temperature, it's about transformation. My mother could have simply left me money, could have split everything 50-50 with my father, could have taken the high road and hoped karma would handle the rest. But she didn't do that. She spent 2 years building a trap, documenting everything, creating a legal fortress that would protect me and punish him, not out of hatred, well, maybe a little hatred, but out of love. She turned her betrayal into my freedom, her pain into my power, her ending into my beginning. And that's the thing about revenge when it's done right. It's not about making someone else suffer. It's about making sure they can never hurt you again. It's about taking back your power and building something beautiful from the ashes of what they destroyed. My father didn't just lose money or a house. He lost his daughter, his wife's legacy, his reputation, his mistress, his peace of mind. He's living in a condo in Stamford now, looking over his shoulder, wondering when the FBI might knock on his door. Meanwhile, I'm drinking espresso in a Parisian cafe, writing a book, running a bookshop, and planning my next adventure. She won, and in winning, she gave me everything. So here's what I want you to know if you're reading this and you're in a situation like I was. Document everything. Protect yourself legally. Build your fortress quietly. And never ever underestimate a dying woman who has nothing left to lose and a daughter to protect. My mother taught me that the best revenge isn't lowering yourself to their level, it's rising so far above them that they become irrelevant. It's living so well that their betrayal becomes just a footnote in your story, not the ending. On my nightstand in Paris, I keep 3 things: a photo of my mother and me at the beach house, the letter she wrote me, and a small card she gave me on my 13th birthday. The card says, "Darling girl, remember, you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become. I choose joy. I choose freedom. I choose forgiveness. For my sake, not his. I choose life. And every day, I squeeze my pillow 3 times before I fall asleep. She squeezes back. I swear she does.